The next most common question that I get is about moving out on your own. So, if you don't know, I moved out the house when I was 18 years old. I moved from Atlanta, Georgia to California. And ever since then, I've been living on my own. I have my own apartment, I have a car, and I've just been paying bills and just living, my the single adult life, I guess. I don't know. But I get a lot of questions on how to move out on your own, how to find an apartment. This is a financial literacy channel, but people ask me how to find an apartment. Like, this is apartments.com. I don't know. But I get a lot of questions about moving out on your own when you turn 18. So first off and foremost, I know this is gonna sound like I'm going against everything that I believe in, but I do not recommend, if you have parents that you get along with and your home situation is not terrible, I recommend that you live with your parents for as long as you possibly can. Well, not necessarily as long as you possibly can, because once you start getting to 25, 26, okay, so this is kind of ghetto. But in your early adult, from like 18 to 21, 22, I recommend, if you have a steady, strong relationship with your parents, still living with your parents, because moving out, going from like 18, like going from high school to living on your own, can be very, very like hard, and it can be very, very like, difficult. And if you have those couple of years, even if you don't go to college, even if you have those couple of years where you are just living with your parents, so you're not paying as much rent, you have a chunk of time where you can save up so much money. Like, that'll be the time where you can get like two jobs and just save up, because you're not in college, so you could just get a second job and you have two streams of income. And because you don't pay rent and you don't have any real overhead expenses, you can save up so much money by living with your parents. Even if they only make you pay like $300 a month in rent, it's like better than getting an apartment and having to pay $1,000 or $1,200 a month in rent. So let me take a sip of water. Let's see my Starbucks cup. It is very cute. But so let's say you do not have this stable relationship with your parents, which is why a lot of people here on this channel. If you don't have a stable relationship and you want to move out at 18, the first thing that I would pay attention to is the fact that you need credit. Any decent apartment complex is going to require you to have credit to move out. So if what I was asking my parents to do, which is what they didn't do, is at 17, about 6 months before you turn 18, ask one of your parents to make you an authorized user on your credit card. By doing that, by the time you turn 18 and you want to move out, let's say like how I did on my 18th birthday, then you already have the established credit to go ahead and start applying for apartment complexes. That reason being, like I was saying before, any established apartment is going to require that they do a credit check. If the apartment that you're applying for is not asking for a credit check, I recommend that you run very far away, because that apartment is probably not good. They're probably gonna have tons of issues, because any apartment complex that cares about the people that are renting out the apartment is going to do some form of background check to make sure they're a responsible enough tenant to live in that apartment. So the second thing that you will have to worry about when applying for apartment and moving out at 18 is pay stubs. They're going to require some form of income verification. These are the first two things that should be going through your head when you're thinking about applying for apartment: credit and income verification. The reason why that might be an issue for somebody who is 18 is because people who rent out the apartment to you they will require that you earn a certain amount of income. And just coming out of high school, what type of job? There are good jobs that you can have, like Amazon warehouse, FedEx, what was it called? Truck driver, things like that nature. But most likely, just coming out of high school, it's going to take some time for you to get those types of jobs. So if you're most likely going to end up with a minimum wage job, sorry, a minimum wage job. And if you have a minimum wage job, that income is not going to be looking the best, if you know what I'm saying. So hold on. I'm keep going back between YouTube and Instagram so I can see who's watching and who's not. But if you apply what were we talking about? What were we talking about? Income verification. So with a minimum wage job, that income verification is not going to be looking the best, because even if you live in a state like I did when I was 18, you live in Georgia, where Georgia still follows the regular minimum wage requirements, which is $7.25 an hour. And you're $7.25 an hour, 40 hours a week, if I'm not mistaken, that's $290, not including the taxes that they're going to be taking out your check. So if you're making $290 maybe a week, you're not going to be able to find a great apartment with that type of income. So those are the two things that I would definitely pay attention to. Everything else, if you get those two things on lock, everything else should kind of just like fall into place. I know a lot of people, somebody left a chat. I know a lot of people can think about moving out, and because it's a big life step, it can seem like very overwhelming, and it can seem like there's a lot of stuff going into it. But guys, really, the two things that you need to focus on when you're moving out is credit, income verification, and everything else will pretty much just work itself out. The third thing that you should pay attention to while moving out is saving up enough money for things such as your first month's rent, your security deposit, all the things that you need for your apartment and whatnot. On average, depending on where you're going, if you're moving to a state like California, like I did, I would recommend 5 to 6 grand. But people overcomplicate it a lot. I really would say any regular state, you probably need about $3,000 to $4,000 to move out, and that's gonna give you like a really good cushion to make sure that you have your first month's rent, your security deposit. That's really the only thing that they require from you. Everything else, like your keys, that's like $60. So Jason XL said income. Okay. um, so yeah, the only the three things that I would pay attention to are credit, are what was I saying? Credit, verified income, and making sure that you have enough money saved up to move in for all of the moving in expenses. Just make sure you don't overcomplicate it too much, because like I was saying, it is a big life step, and that can become very, overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, this is my first apartment, I need this, I need that. And when you do stuff like that, that's how you get what is called analysis paralysis. When you start thinking about something too much, you don't actually do it. So yeah. That was question number 2.